for a living. But there was no imminent threat whatsoever. Iran was under a decree of its supreme leader that Israel and the United States murdered that prevented a nuclear weapon in any event on religious grounds. But more than that, Iran did not want a nuclear weapon. It had agreed in 2015 to the Joint Comprehensive Plan of Action to put Iran under strict UN supervision. Iran abided by the agreement. The United States and Israel destroyed the agreement. This is a plan for U.S. control over the Middle East and for Israeli hegemony militarily in the Middle East. It's nothing other than that.
That's a very big statement you're making, sir, that U.S. planned this, Israel planned this, and it's for hegemony in West Asia. Because President Trump has indicated that the U.S. has virtually unlimited supply of weapons to fight wars forever and successfully. Does this indicate that this conflict is not, as is being said, perhaps to last for another 4 weeks or 5 weeks and could be a prolonged regional war?
Yes.
This is a very dangerous situation that could become World War III. Yesterday, Netanyahu, who is another psychopath in my view, I have to say it very clearly because people need to understand what is happening, said that this is the culmination of 40 years' dream of his. That's what I've been saying for years, that Israel is prodding the United States into open war because Israel wants hegemony in the Middle East. The United States wants global hegemony. So that's what the partnership is about. The idea that the United States can sustain this forever is also a fantasy. Everybody is saying whatever they want to say, but Donald Trump, unfortunately, is a deep and chronic liar and very dangerous because the combination of Trump and Netanyahu have set the fuse for World War III. This is disgusting, premeditated, dangerous for everybody, dangerous for India, dangerous for the world.
I'll come to India in just a moment and what it means for energy security of India, Southeast Asia, and this part of the world. But in the United States, is there a disconnect on the aims and objectives of this war between, let's say, the White House, the State Department, and the Pentagon, given the comments of President Trump, Secretary Marco Rubio, and Secretary War Pete Hegseth?
There's not a deep disconnect among those groups. They're in confusion because they lie and they don't have their narrative straight. But the disconnect is between our military security state, which runs the United States, and the American people. That's the disconnect. There is overwhelming opposition in the United States by the people to this action. Roughly 3/4 of the American people are against it. 1/4 are for it. They don't have a story because they're lying all the time. Even Marco Rubio said yesterday, well, we had to act because Israel was acting and we knew there would be retaliation.
Yes.
This is so bizarre, what they say. When you have gangsters that are making things up, they cannot coordinate their stories properly. But basically, this is a long, premeditated war. It took a lot to get all of this military power into the region. So this is not something that just happens in a day or two. This is long planned. And as Netanyahu said, this is his dream for 40 years. And I've watched it close up. Israel has been trying to provoke this war for decades.
And is there an apprehension, Professor Sachs, this could actually go the Afghanistan way or the Iraq way, and then America will have to put boots on ground and decades of deployment, unless in your view, is that the ultimate goal, to remain in that region, to have boots on ground in the region?
They can't.
I don't think the American society will accept boots on the ground. I don't believe it. Because Donald Trump is a deeply unpopular person who came into office promising exactly the opposite. The American people see through these lies. This is a war of choice chosen by Trump and Netanyahu. The Americans do not want boots on the ground, and I don't think it will happen, frankly. So what will happen depends on this underlying military situation. Does the U.S. And Israel have the interceptors do they have the interceptors to protect the region? Will Iran run out first? Will the bombing by the United States and Israel on Iran stop Iran's retaliation? These are military questions in the next weeks that will determine the situation. Boots on the ground, Trump will not do that except if there is martial law in the United States, and I don't think that that is going to happen.
Okay,
Retribution or punishment, he did that with India, he's doing that here. We can decide to live with it or not live with it. If we live with it, then we have to recognize that what the United States government is doing is blatantly illegal. Because under Article 2, Paragraph 4 of the UN Charter, it says that no state may use the threat of force or force against another sovereign state. This is very straightforward. That's the principle on which the entire rules-based order is found. The United States does not accept that principle. The United States is the world's empire. It believes that the strong do what they can and the weak suffer what they must. A line in Western history that goes back to the ancient wars in Greece. And that is the American view. Even the White House has stated that international law is a nicety. That is the question before the world. This year, India is the president of the BRICS.
Yes.
Does the BRICS stand for the UN or for U.S. hegemony? This is a very basic question. But the United States believes it can kidnap presidents, it can kill leaders, it can invade when it wants. It can call aggression self-defense, and it believes it can get away with it. Now, I have to admit, it gets away with a lot, because countries that have U.S. military bases in them are generally vassal states of the United States. And the U.S. has military bases in around 80 countries in the world.
So let's talk about some of those countries in West Asia right now. Because since the United States and Israel began striking Iran, the Islamic Republic retaliated with ballistic missiles and drones in what is as of now being described as over 25 waves of attacks targeting not just Israel, but also Saudi Arabia, Bahrain, Qatar, United Arab Emirates, Kuwait, Iraq. What is your reading of Iran's strategy of targeting countries in the region and expanding the arc of war? Are they hoping this would lead to these countries protesting, saying their economies are getting impacted, put a stop to it? Or will they gang up with the United States and isolate Iran even further?
What's happening, but just to be precise, what they are doing is targeting the military bases of the United States. And this is very interesting. Think about it. All of those countries, Bahrain, United Arab Emirates, Saudi Arabia, Iraq, these are countries that are home to the U.S. military and the CIA. That's what's happening right now. So Iran is retaliating against an Israel-U.S. attack by attacking the U.S. CIA bases in the Middle East. Now, this is extraordinarily complicated because will the Middle East countries side with Israel and with the United States in this attack? Maybe the governments will, because maybe the governments are all afraid of being overthrown by the United States or afraid of the CIA. My advice to any government is do not host a U.S. military base because you will be a vassal of the United States if you do. My advice to India is do not join the Quad. India doesn't want another empire ruling over it. It had an empire. It didn't like it. It was not satisfactory. India is an independent country. It should not join a U.S. military alliance. But I tell you, just like the United States believes that it controls and owns the Middle East, it believes that it will dominate India's politics because it will get India on side against China. It's playing games everywhere. It's trying to divide the world and get countries to side with it by saying you are threatened by the other side. It's an old strategy. It's a Roman imperial strategy. In Latin, divide et impera, divide and conquer. And that's what the United States is trying to do.
Well, India suffered, as you well know, Professor, divide and rule of the British. Hopefully the very important lessons have been learned post-1947. But Professor Sachs, in your view, will this war last as long as Iran has those rockets and missiles and drones? Or will US and Israel carpet bombing force the regime to surrender? Or perhaps, as the Americans hope, the leadership hopes, embolden the people to take to the streets and overthrow the regime? What's your reading, sir?
Well, again, I don't have a crystal ball, but the idea that people will take to the streets and replace the regime seems to me an utter fantasy. The idea that 2 or 3 weeks of carpet bombing a vast country, roughly the size of Western Europe, rugged, mountainous, brings it to its knees, seems to run against every lesson of modern warfare. So, no, I don't believe that a few weeks of bombing, as brutal as it is, as many schoolgirls as will be killed, I don't believe that that will bring Iran to its knees, no.
And the Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps, they said that the Strait of Hormuz is closed for shipping traffic. They warned any vessel attempting to pass through these transit waterways would be set on fire. What does this mean for global shipping, for energy and economies?
I think it is, of course, a very profound shock to the world economy, to India, to Southeast Asia, to China. It is likely to raise oil prices above $100 a barrel. I believe that this is credible. The Straits of Hormuz is a very narrow passage. It is effectively under the control of Iranian guns. I don't think the United States and Israel, or the Arab countries for that matter, can clear the way of the Straits of Hormuz. I don't think that the insurers and the shippers are going to be passing tankers through the Straits of Hormuz. So my guess is that this is for real, that if it lasts many weeks or even months, it will have a very significant effect on the world economy, a very negative one, and that it will be Europe, India, and China that will pay the highest price.
And UN Secretary of State Marco Rubio saying that the hardest hits on Iran are yet to come. He added that he wouldn't want to give away details of the tactical efforts. Does this indicate that this is just the initial phase of the war? So the worst phase of the war is yet to come? Or do you see a ray of hope that perhaps behind the scenes there could be some dialogue, some diplomacy, some way to come back to the talks table?
There won't be a return to talks because to talk with the United States is to be killed. But there could be a stop to the fighting. I think that the BRICS should play the leading role in this. This will not come because the United States scares Iran. If the Arab countries make the mistake, which they are making, by the way, of falling under the U.S. Umbrella, then they will face continuing pounding. What is needed is a bigger picture to understand that what has happened is a U.S. attempt at hegemony. It's quite an advanced and explicit one, that this is not in the interest of the world, that the United States and Israel need to stand down, that Israel needs to stop wars all over the Middle East. I know that Prime Minister Modi was just in Israel, but the point is, Israel is a violent, expansionist, regional country that aims at regional military hegemony through its monopoly of nuclear weapons in the Middle East. This is a reckless policy. Israel should learn to live within its own borders, and that would make the world a lot safer.
So since you spoke of the nukes, Professor Sachs, Sergei Lavrov, the Russian foreign minister, a short while back said that the U.S. move may just spur not just Iran, but other countries to acquire a nuclear weapon, because perhaps that's the only way to stay safe. Would you agree with that assessment?
When countries have given up nuclear weapons or given up nuclear weapons programs like Libya did, the United States tends to kill the leader that does it and give up. Iran did not want nuclear weapons. The supreme leader, Ali Khamenei, said repeatedly in a religious sense, this is against Shia Islam. The United States just killed the religious leader that for decades held back Iran from developing nuclear weapons. We don't know what this means, but it's odd to kill the religious leader that is the one that is restraining the development of nuclear weapons. But that is the twisted approach of the United States and Israel.
And Professor Sachs, your assessment of Europe's role in this conflict. President Trump has hit out at the British Prime Minister Keir Starmer for not letting them use the Diego Garcia base. But France, as of now, is sending an aircraft carrier strike group, according to reports. Spain is reluctant. They don't want their bases to be used. How do you see Europe reacting and the impact on Europe?
The impact on Europe is very negative. Europe just keeps getting pummeled. Everything that happens is adverse to Europe, whether in Ukraine, whether the U.S. threats against Greenland, now this war in the Middle East. Europe is very poorly led. Why is that? Because Europe essentially is a vassal region of the United States. It's almost entirely occupied by the U.S. military and CIA, and governments in Europe do not have any ability, it seems, to speak truthfully. So they have all come out, except for Spain, in favor of the U.S. attacks, which have opened up this new war. But that's because of how vulnerable they actually are, how much of a vassal they consider themselves to be. They do not speak for their own interest, and that's why European interests are never represented. France is a little bit different. France is a former and still wannabe imperial power. So France still envisions itself as having an imperial role in the Middle East, notably in Lebanon. This is not what the French people want. This is not what Europe wants. Interestingly, people all over the world want peace, but the leaders in the United States and Israel and in Europe want war. It makes these leaders deeply unpopular.
6 body bags so far, and God forbid there should be more, I hope not. 3 aircraft lost, fears of escalation. In your view, sir, Americans, will they favor Trump? Should there be a prolonged war? Will that make President Trump even more unpopular post challenges in midterm?
I personally would be shocked if Trump found support in the United States for what he has done. At the beginning of this, 75% of the Americans were against it. If this is prolonged, Trump's approval ratings, in my view, will plummet further. He was at 37% approval, 60% disapproval when the war started. He's not a popular man. Now, the U.S. government has not even been able to tell the same lie about why this war started. As you noted, the White House, the Pentagon, and the State Department are all strategically together, but tactically they don't even know how to tell the same story. This is not reassuring to the American people.
Indeed it isn't, but what would this mean? Should there be a prolonged war for places like Dubai, for places like Abu Dhabi, or for Saudi Arabia? Because Dubai, Abu Dhabi, they pride themselves in being as an oasis of peace, a place for investment, people to holiday, but you know, with anti-missile defense shields getting activated, there is unhappiness.
Yes, this already has done grave damage to the United Arab Emirates. It's not something quickly to repair. How can this be the safe haven if it is so easily attacked? These are luxury hotels that have been hit by drones as well as military bases. But this was the place supposedly to come park your money, to be safe, to be on holiday. The airport was hit. I think that this is an extraordinary miscalculation by the United Arab Emirates, by the way, because it had sided with Israel and in the Abraham Accord, something I found rather shocking under the circumstances of Israel committing genocide in Gaza. But it made that calculation. Now it's hoping that this war will succeed on its behalf, and this reputational damage will quickly be removed. But it's a very, very big blow to a region that says we are the safe haven. It's not a safe haven. This is an old adage of Henry Kissinger that to be an enemy of the United States is dangerous, but to be a friend is fatal. And this is what the Arab countries are learning right now.
Oh, absolutely. But before I let you go, sir, if President Trump says that his aim is to ensure that a radical Islamist state does not have a nuclear weapon, and he means Iran, he's friends with Pakistan, which again is the radical Islamist state and has a nuclear weapon. So it doesn't seem to add up Trump's policies.
There's no principle. There's no consistency. There's no honesty day to day. There's no underlying logic except the American view of power. It wants power everywhere. It thinks that it controls India because it thinks that in the Quad, it can convince India, you side with us because China's your enemy. This is the old trick. This is what the United States tries to do in every region. But the United States does not operate on principle, I'm sorry to say. That's why the world is so dangerous and aflame right now. We have the principles. It's called the UN Charter. The BRICS should defend the UN Charter.
Do you see an off-ramp anywhere in this? Do you see this conflict escalate in the days and weeks ahead? What is a way that a solution may be found? Any glimmer of hope?
The glimmer of hope is the United States says, this does not work. This makes no sense. We go home. The fighting will stop.
So no glimmer of hope. But
No, I didn't say that. I said that the United States could be intelligent. You could say that's no glimmer of hope, but there are intelligent people in the United States. They're just not sitting in the White House right now.
I will let that be the last word on this part of the show. Professor Jeffrey Sachs, as always, it's such a treat to hear you, to talk to you, and hope to have you back on the show once again and soon.
Wonderful. Thank you very much.